I didn't drive out there because I was chasing some ghost story. I drove out there because a property caretaker I'd met like twice called me, and he sounded tired. Like he'd been saying the same sentence to the same skeptical faces for too long, and he was done trying to make it cute. The house sat 20 minutes past the last gas station, down a county road that turned into packed gravel, then into a driveway that looked like it belonged to nobody. And the structure itself, it was almost insulting in how normal it was. White siding, a porch swing that didn't even creak, a tidy yard with winter brown grass cut too short. It was the kind of place that should smell like lemons and old photos, not trouble. The caretaker didn't come out. He wasn't even on the property. He left the key in a lockbox and sent me a text that basically boiled down to, "Please, just look. And if you can explain it, I can sleep again." I unlocked the front door and got hit with that clean smell right away. Not fresh or lived-in clean, but chemical clean. The air had that faint bite, like somebody had been chasing invisible germs for months, maybe years. Like cleaning could erase a feeling. The first thing I saw was the kitchen table. A cheap tape recorder sat dead center like a centerpiece. Next to it was a neat stack of cassettes, all lined up, all facing the same direction, each one labeled with a date in careful block letters. The ink looked pressed, like whoever wrote it was trying to keep their hands steady. And then there was one tape that didn't match. There was no date or words, just a smeared stripe where somebody tried to wipe the label clean. I picked up the top tape and my thumb found a little notch worn into the edge, like it had been handled more than the others. I told myself I'd listen for a few seconds, just long enough to make sure it wasn't some dumb prank. Then I'd get back to the boring, normal stuff, the kind of checklist that keeps you calm. I'd go through the doors, test the windows, look over the foundation, check for animals, sniff out water damage, anything that let me say, "See, it's just a house." I sat down at the table and pressed play.
Okay, I'm doing this because I'm tired of sounding crazy when I try to explain it out loud. I bought this house in the spring because it was cheap, and because I wanted a place where nobody would bother me. I'm saying that like it's normal to want, but it's probably not. It's probably not a good sign. Nothing's happened that you'd call, like, haunted. That's the problem. It's all little things. It's always little things. I keep waking up at the same time every night. I don't mean around the same time, I mean the same time. Like my body's an alarm clock and someone set it. And I hear footsteps in the hall and they stop right outside my door. They don't scratch, they don't knock, they just stop. Like someone's standing there, waiting. Like they're waiting for me to do something stupid or brave or whatever. I know how that sounds, I do. I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm literally embarrassed right now talking to a tape recorder like I'm in some documentary. Like I'm the kind of person that does this. I keep telling myself it's pipes, settling, old wood, my brain being a jerk because I'm alone in the woods and my imagination wants a hobby. That's what I keep telling myself, over and over. I'm gonna laugh about this in a month. That's what I'm telling myself. I'm gonna laugh and feel stupid for making a record of it like it mattered.
I stopped it there. I could have let it run, but the calmness in her voice did this weird thing to me. It didn't sound like someone trying to scare an audience. It sounded like someone trying to keep herself from doing something reckless, just to break the tension. I set the cassette down and did what I came there to do. I walked the house in daylight and made a mental list. The front and back doors had new weather stripping that didn't match the age of the frames. Both deadbolts looked recently replaced. There was a second latch on the bedroom door, the kind you install in a cheap motel when you don't trust the lock. The windows were all shut and sealed tight enough to fight me when I tested them. In the hallway outside the bedroom, I noticed scratches near the latch plate. Not tool marks, thin, uneven grooves like somebody tried to hook a fingernail under the door and failed. Tried again. Failed again. The living room furniture was positioned oddly, not for comfort. The couch faced the hall like it was there to watch. The chair by the window was angled toward the bedroom door, not the TV. Even the little side table had been nudged so it didn't block the line of sight. There was a rhythm to the place, like someone had arranged it into a map they could survive on. Like, if the furniture is right, I can be right. That kind of thinking. Under the kitchen sink, I found more tapes, tucked behind cleaning supplies like contraband. In the pantry, a cereal box on the highest shelf had a cassette inside it. In a drawer, taped to the underside, another one. Same handwriting, same careful dates. I didn't like how that felt. People don't hide things from thieves inside their own house. They hide things from themselves, or from whatever version of themselves might snap and throw it all in the trash. I checked the attic access. I checked the crawlspace entrance. I checked for signs of rodents, raccoons, squirrels, anything that could scuttle and bump and make a hallway feel alive. Everything came back boring. That night, I stayed. I told myself it was stubbornness. Maybe it was. But if I'm being honest, it was also the way that first tape sat in my head like an unfinished sentence. The house was too clean, too arranged, too deliberate to walk away from after one pass. I made the guest bed in the second bedroom because the main bedroom had that extra latch, and I didn't feel like sleeping in a room that looked like a bunker. I ate standing at the kitchen counter because the table felt like a stage. Then I turned the lights off and waited for my body to prove I wasn't as immune as I liked to think I was. I woke up at 3:17 a.m. Not around then, not sometime after midnight. I opened my eyes like a switch flipped, and the first thought in my head was the numbers 3:17. Like I'd been told. Like I'd been programmed. I stared at the ceiling and listened. The house didn't give me footsteps or whispers or anything cinematic. It gave me the sound of my own breathing, and that sharp awareness you get when you're wide awake for no reason and your brain starts shopping for a reason anyway. I got up, checked my phone, and saw the time. 3:17 a.m. exactly. Then I walked the hall with my bare feet on cold floorboards and found nothing. I went back to bed and slept in chunks until gray morning. By noon, my skepticism had changed shape. It didn't go away. It just got quieter, like it was lowering its voice in a church. I made coffee at the counter and looked at the stack of cassettes like they were evidence in a case I didn't want assigned to me. I picked tape 2. The date was a week after tape 1. I sat at the kitchen table because avoiding it felt childish, and I pressed play.
I'm recording earlier today because I'm not doing the night thing anymore without some kind of plan. I'm tired of waking up and then spending the next day trying to convince myself I didn't. So I'm doing variables. That's what I'm calling it. Variables, like I'm a scientist and not a grown woman arguing with a hallway. Tonight I'm leaving the bedroom door open. Not all the way, just open. And I'm leaving the lamp on. And I'm gonna keep the radio on low, not because I'm scared, I'm not. I'm controlling the environment. That's all this is. Last night, when I got up to use the bathroom, the fan was on. I didn't turn it on. I don't use it because it makes that rattling sound and it annoys me. It was on anyway, and it wasn't like it had just clicked on. It was already running like it had been going for a while. And the chair in the living room was turned, like a few inches, like someone had rotated it to face the hall. I'm saying that like it matters, and it shouldn't because chairs move, I get that. I'm not stupid. It's just always the same direction. It's always facing that hallway. I'm not scared, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed that I can't prove it. I'm annoyed that I can't point at one big thing and say, there! That's the reason I feel like I'm being watched. Whatever. I'm gonna do my little experiment tonight and then I'm gonna be done with this. I'm done letting a stupid house make me feel like I'm smaller than I am.
I could hear the strain even when she insisted she was fine. The way she made rules without calling them rules. The way she circled the same point like she was afraid the logic would slide out from under her if she didn't keep touching it. I paused the tape and walked the house again, slower. This time I watched the floor. There were wear marks in the hallway that didn't match the traffic you'd expect. Not scuffs from shoes going back and forth. A tight loop, like somebody paced the same 3 steps 1,000 times, like the floor learned them. In the living room, I took a picture frame off the wall because the dust around it looked too clean, like it got moved often. Behind it on the paint were faint tally marks, some scratched into drywall, others drawn in pencil and then erased. Not decorative, not cute. Accounting. I counted a cluster and realized something that made my stomach tighten. The marks weren't grouped in days, they were grouped in nights. Each cluster started and ended like a calendar that only cared about darkness. That afternoon, I found another deadbolt installed on a closet door inside the bedroom, not outside, where you'd lock valuables. Inside, like someone wanted to lock something in, or lock themselves out, or both, or neither. I hated how many options my brain offered. I tried to explain it with normal reasons. A bad relationship, a break-in scare, paranoia that had nothing to do with the house. Then, at 3:17 a.m. that night, I woke up again. My eyes opened on their own. My heart didn't race. It didn't have to. My body already knew the schedule. I sat up and listened for footsteps. I told myself I was proving a point. I heard nothing. But I still didn't get out of bed. I lay there with my head turned toward the bedroom door and realized I was waiting for something that wasn't even happening. I was bracing for an event that didn't need to occur to change the way I behaved. That bothered me more than footsteps ever could. The next morning, I didn't go straight for the next tape. I tried to move through the house the way you do when nothing's wrong. I washed a plate and put it away. I opened the windows for air even though the cold came in hard. I stood in the living room and looked down the hallway like it was just another part of the floor plan. I noticed something small that I couldn't talk myself around. One section of the hall felt sidestepped, not by me, but by the house itself. The air was the same temperature, the light was the same, the paint was the same. Still, the space carried that wrongness you get when your brain catches a detail before it can name it. Like a trail that goes quiet. I caught myself shifting my weight so I didn't have to stand directly in front of it. The fact that I'd done it without thinking made my stomach tighten. I sat down at the kitchen table again and picked tape 3. Her dates had started spacing closer together. I pressed play.
I'm tired. I'm so tired that I feel sick. I haven't slept right in. I don't even know. I keep thinking I slept, and then I realize I was just staring into the dark, trying to count my breathing like that means anything. It's not just at night now. It's whenever I'm vulnerable. That's the only word that fits. When I'm in the shower and I can't hear. When I'm changing clothes and I feel ridiculous for even thinking someone could be watching, but I still feel it. When I'm crying and I don't want anyone to know I'm crying, even though I'm alone. And then, the second I try to prove it, it stops. It's like it knows. I called my sister and put her on speaker and walked up and down the hall like I was putting on a demonstration, and nothing happened. The house was perfect. Quiet. Normal. I sounded like I was asking for help I couldn't explain. I stopped calling people. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not giving anyone the chance to tilt their head and smile like they're humoring me. There's this thing I'm doing now, and I don't want to admit I'm doing it because that makes it real. But I'm doing it. If I don't look down the hall, I can breathe. That sounds humiliating. It sounds like I'm turning drywall into a threat, but when I don't look, I can at least pretend the space is empty. When I look, it feels like the space notices. I don't even want to hear myself say that. I don't want it to be true. And I can't tell if I want to laugh or come apart because both of those feel too close to the same thing right now. I'm going to stop recording now because my hands are shaking and I don't want to hear this back later and feel exposed all over again.
She stopped, and the silence after her voice wasn't dramatic. It was just blank tape. The kind of nothing that makes you realize how much a person can hold in their throat without ever letting it out. I set the cassette down and walked to the bedroom closet with the inside deadbolt. I tested it. It locked from the closet side. That shouldn't have been possible without someone standing in there. The smell inside the closet was stale and sharp, like sweat that had dried and been covered with cleaner. I shined my phone light along the interior paneling and found gouges on the inside of the door. Not scratch marks from a coat hanger, not scuffs from boxes. Thin crescents, deep enough to catch my fingernail. Someone had clawed at the wood from inside the closet hard enough to leave a record. I stood there longer than I needed to, and then I did the most predictable thing possible. I looked down the hallway without blinking, like I could settle it through sheer will. Nothing moved. No shadow slid, no figure appeared. But my body reacted anyway. My palms went wet. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step on stairs. My throat tightened, and for a second, I couldn't get a full breath in. I turned away and leaned a hand on the wall like I was steadying myself, and the thought hit me hard. I hadn't seen anything. I'd only decided to confront the space, and the space had answered with my own biology. That was when I realized what this place did best. It didn't need to show you a monster. It just needed to teach you a routine. Later, hunting for the next tapes, I found a board nailed across the crawlspace entrance like someone had tried to keep themselves from remembering it existed. Behind the board, in the dust, was a pillowcase stuffed with cassettes. She'd hidden her own voice in the dark. Tape 4 was dated only 2 days after tape 3. The handwriting looked harsher, pressed deeper into the label, like she'd been gripping the marker too tight. I didn't sit at the table this time. I stood by the kitchen counter because I didn't want to feel settled. I pressed play.
No. I'm done being polite about this. I'm done trying to make it sound like a draft or a raccoon or my hormones or whatever easy explanation makes people comfortable. I know you're there. I don't even want to talk like this, like you're a person. But you're doing it on purpose. You're timing it, you're waiting until I'm tired, and then you're standing out there like you're trying to train me. You want me to look. You want me to come out. That's what this is. That's why it stops when I'm on the phone. That's why it stops when there's anyone else involved. Because you don't want witnesses. You want me alone with it. Fine. I see you. Congratulations. You've got my attention. Last night I stood in the hallway and I yelled. I yelled at nothing. I yelled at empty air like I'd finally cracked. And then I sat down on the floor and I laughed until I couldn't breathe because I could hear how it sounded. I'm not even scared anymore, in the way I was at the start. It's worse than that. I'm furious. I'm exposed. I feel like I'm being worked over in my own house. I'm gonna stop being afraid. I'm gonna walk down that hall every night if I have to. I'm not giving you my sleep and my sanity because you think it's funny. I'm done.
Her breathing hitched at the end. Not a sob, not fully, but the edge of one that she swallowed hard. I stopped the tape with my finger still on the button and realized I was clenching my jaw. That afternoon I tried to follow her path. Not because I thought it would fix anything, but because some part of me wanted to prove I could do it without turning into her. I walked the hallway slowly, shoulders squared, eyes forward, and told myself I wouldn't blink. I wouldn't flinch. I wouldn't give the space the satisfaction of making me act differently. The hallway stayed the same, but my body reacted anyway. My hands shook. My palms went wet. My stomach churned like I'd swallowed something rotten. My breath kept catching at the top, like it didn't want to go all the way in. I found myself counting my breaths without meaning to. In for 4, hold, out for 6, like I was trying to outsmart panic with math. My skin felt too tight. My mouth went dry. I had the urge to laugh, not because it was funny, but because it was absurd that I could feel threatened by silence. I backed out of the hall and sat on the kitchen floor for a minute just to reset. My pride didn't like it, but my nervous system didn't care about pride. When I finally went looking again, I found tape 5 tucked into a vent cavity behind a cover that had been screwed on too tight. It took effort to get it off. It felt intentional, like she'd hidden it from a version of herself that would have thrown it away. Tape 5 had no date, just a faint smudge, like she'd started to write it and changed her mind. I didn't like that. Dates were order. Dates were control. No date meant she'd stopped pretending she had either. I sat down because my legs were tired and pressed play.
I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. I'm saying that and I don't even know who I'm saying it to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being angry. I'm sorry for whatever I did that made this happen. I keep going back through my life like there's some moment I can point to and say, that's the reason. That's when I earned this. That's when I became the kind of person a thing like this would pick. I'm sorry about my dad. I'm sorry I didn't go sooner. I'm sorry I didn't answer the phone that last time because I was tired and I didn't want to deal with him being sad again. I'm sorry about the people I pushed away because it was easier than admitting I was lonely. I'm sorry about the awful things I've thought that I would never say out loud. I don't know what you want. I don't know what the terms are. I don't know how to do this right. But if you want me to admit things, fine. If you want me to be honest, fine. I can do that. Just stop making me feel like I'm not real in my own house. It doesn't want the house. It wants the part of me that keeps me human. That's what it feels like. Like it's waiting me out until I'm willing to hand over whatever part of me still believes I deserve peace. I don't want you to hear me like this. I don't want to sound like I'm bargaining with air. But I can't stand the quiet anymore, and I can't stand what the quiet does to me. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna get it together. I'm not gonna do this again.
Her breath wavered and then steadied, like she'd forced herself back into shape mid-sentence. I clicked the recorder off and realized my own breathing had matched hers without me noticing. A shallow rhythm, careful, measured. I walked to the wall behind the picture frame and looked at the tally marks again. I traced the clusters with my eyes and counted, but this time I didn't just count nights. I looked at the spacing. There were stretches with fewer marks, then sudden bursts, like she'd started marking something else. I pulled the frame fully away and found a second set, fainter, half erased, tucked lower, almost hidden behind where the frame would sit. 2 systems. One looked like survival. The other looked like confession. I spent the next hour hunting for patterns I didn't want to find. I checked closet corners, under loose baseboards, behind vent covers. I found a notebook jammed behind the kitchen drawer. Pages warped from humidity, like it had lived in someone's hand for a long time. Most of it was lists, but not grocery lists. Route lists. Door to kitchen. Kitchen to living room. Living room to back door. Times written next to them in shaky numbers. Notes like, don't stop. Don't look. And then a line that didn't belong in logistics. It gets worse after I give it something. Not a spell. Not a ritual. Just a sentence. Like she'd finally noticed the same thing I was starting to feel. The house didn't escalate after defiance. It escalated after surrender. That night, when 3:17 a.m. hit, I woke up and my first thought wasn't fear. My first thought was, don't look down the hall. And the ease of that thought made me feel sick. Tape 6 was in a closet behind the water heater, tucked inside a cardboard box labeled holiday decorations, It didn't belong there. It belonged where she could reach it fast, which meant she'd hidden it because reaching it had started to feel like a reflex she didn't trust. I pressed play and waited for her voice to crack.
I'm fine. I'm recording because that's what I do. That's the maintenance. The tape recorder stays on the table. The lights get set before dark. The bedroom door gets latched. The bathroom fan stays off. The radio stays on low, but not music, just talk, because music makes me feel like I'm pretending. Last night I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark and listened to footsteps circle me for hours. Not running, not stomping, just walking. Slow, like pacing, like someone doing a job. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't cry. I counted the steps until I lost count, and then I started over. I don't know what time it stopped. I don't know if it stopped because it got bored or because it got what it wanted. This morning I was standing in the hallway and I don't remember walking there. I remember being in bed. I remember the sound. I remember blinking, and then I was in the hallway like my body had made a decision without me. I don't call anyone anymore. There's no point. I don't want someone in here. I don't want to watch it behave perfectly while someone else looks at me like they're waiting for me to admit I'm unstable. I'm fine. This is fine. This is just what the house is.
No emotion, no shake, no apology. The same words a person uses when they've stopped expecting help. I stood there in the kitchen with the tape running and felt something cold settle in my chest. Not fear exactly, but recognition. The house had taught her a schedule and a set of movements, and then it had waited until her body followed them automatically. I started noticing my own patterns like I was watching someone else. I planned routes through rooms without thinking. I set my keys on the same counter spot every time because my brain wanted consistency. I checked the latch twice, then 3 times, because the act of checking was a sedative. In the bedroom closet, behind hanging coats, I found packed bags. 2 of them, already zipped. A pair of boots placed next to them. A gas can in the laundry room, empty, like it had been carried in and then abandoned because she couldn't get herself to complete the plan. Her car keys weren't in a bowl or on a hook. They were hidden inside a ceramic mug in the back of a cabinet, like she'd tried to keep herself from grabbing them too early. She'd tried to leave. Something had made her stop. I told myself I was different. I told myself I could walk out whenever I wanted. Then I realized there was one tape left, the smeared one on the table. And I couldn't make myself leave without hearing it, because I already knew it mattered, and that meant the house had gotten one small hook into me. I should have taken the smeared tape outside. I should have sat in my car with the doors locked and listened from a safe distance, like distance meant anything when the problem was inside your head. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table again, fingers on the recorder, stomach tight, and pressed play.
I can't do this anymore. I'm not saying that because I'm scared. I'm saying it because I'm tired of being a person who measures her life in nights survived. I'm tired of waking up and having my first thought be a hallway. Like my whole life is a hallway now. I used to think being afraid was the worst part. It wasn't. Fear at least means there's still a part of you that believes you can protect yourself. The worst part is what it did to my trust. I don't trust my own mind. I don't trust my memories. I don't trust the feeling of relief, because relief just means it's between rounds. It just means it's loading again. It doesn't make me see monsters. It makes me stop believing myself. I keep thinking about how quiet the house is when anyone else is around. How normal it is. How neat it looks. How it waits until I'm alone, and then it starts again like it's patient, and it knows it has time. Like it has all the time in the world. And I don't. I had this moment last night. I was standing in the hall and I realized I wasn't afraid. Not because I was brave, because I didn't care. It felt like something broke loose in me and floated away, and I watched it go, and I didn't even try to stop it. So I'm making a decision. I don't know if it's the right one. I don't know if there are right ones anymore. I'm going to give it what it wants. Not the house, not the keys, not my body. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing some dramatic thing that makes someone else tell this story like I was a tragedy. I'm giving it the part of me that keeps fighting. If you're hearing this, it's because you stayed long enough. I hope you don't do what I did.
The tape clicked and hissed into blankness. I sat there with my hands flat on the table, like I needed the pressure to remember where I was. My mouth was dry. My tongue felt thick, like my body was trying to slow me down. I didn't feel a presence. I didn't see a shadow. I felt something worse. I felt the urge to make sense of her last line by turning it into a rule. Stayed long enough. Like time was the trap, not the walls. I stood up so fast the chair scraped hard across the floor. The sound made me flinch, which made me angry, which made my chest tighten again. I was cycling through reactions like a machine, like I wasn't choosing any of it. I decided I was leaving right then. Not after one more check, not after one more lap through the house, not after one more careful listen for footsteps that might not even come. Shoes on, keys in hand, door open. That was the plan. And then I realized I was standing in the hallway. I didn't remember walking there. My heart started hammering, not because I saw anything, but because I felt the same missing time she'd described, and my brain tried to paste excuses over it in real time. You got distracted. You went to check the latch. You were just making sure. You did it on purpose. You did it on purpose. I turned around and walked back to the kitchen on purpose, slow, narrating my steps in my head like that would anchor me. Kitchen. Front door. Shoes. My shoes were by the door, just like I'd left them. My keys were not in my hand. They were on the kitchen counter. I stared at them for a full second, trying to decide if I'd set them there or if I'd only thought about setting them there. I couldn't tell. My confidence in my own action was suddenly thin as paper. I grabbed the keys so hard the metal cut into my palm. I forced myself to put my shoes on while staring at the doorknob like it might talk me out of it. I opened the front door and the cold air hit my face like a slap. I stepped onto the porch and the instinct to look back rose up in me like a cough. Not because I expected to see a figure, because my brain wanted to confirm something. Anything. It wanted closure. It wanted a picture it could file away so it could stop spinning. I didn't give it that. I walked to the car without turning my head and got in. I locked the doors and started the engine with my hands shaking so hard I missed the ignition the first time. Halfway down the driveway, I realized I was holding my breath. I forced air in, forced it out, and kept driving until the house disappeared behind trees. My pulse didn't slow the way it should have once I was gone. It stayed high, like my body didn't believe distance mattered. Like my body thought the hallway was still there, right behind my eyes. 10 minutes later, at a wide spot in the road, I pulled over and sat with both hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. That was when the last sting landed. I hadn't taken all the tapes. I'd grabbed a few, enough to tell myself I had evidence, enough to tell myself I wasn't leaving empty-handed. But I hadn't taken all of them, and I knew exactly why. Because some part of me didn't want to be responsible for them. Some part of me wanted them to stay in that house, Like leaving them there meant leaving the pattern there too. I drove home anyway. The next day, I put the tapes I did take into a sealed plastic bin and shoved it onto a high shelf in my workshop. I didn't copy them. I didn't destroy them. I didn't listen again. I told myself that was caution. If I'm being honest, it was also shame. I didn't leave because I was brave. I left because I could feel myself starting to normalize it. Thanks for sticking around till the end. Like the video, subscribe for more, and share it if you know someone who'd be into this kind of content. There's another video waiting for you on screen now. I think you'll like that one too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.